Ibrahim Traoré's Desert Revolution, how millions of foxes are reviving Burkina Faso's dead lands. Globe showing Europe-Africa fox face. In a world obsessed with weapons, machines, and nuclear power, one African leader has chosen a completely different path. Instead of fighting nature, he decided to work with it. This is the story of Ibrahim Traoré, the president of Burkina Faso, and his extraordinary plan to revive his country's dying deserts by releasing millions of foxes into the wild. When Traoré took power, he inherited a nation struggling with hunger, drought, and desertification. Once fertile lands had turned into dry wastelands. Rivers had vanished, crops had failed, and farmers were abandoning their homes. In northern Burkina Faso, sandstorms raged where green meadows once stood. The situation was dire, and the government's traditional methods, dams, machines, and artificial irrigation, had failed. That's when Traoré had an unconventional idea. Instead of relying on human-made technology, he decided to heal the land through nature itself. He asked a simple but revolutionary question: if nature created life once, can't it do it again? After consulting with environmental experts, he discovered something fascinating. Foxes could play a vital role in restoring balance to desert ecosystems. These small, intelligent creatures aren't just hunters, they are natural recyclers. Foxes eat insects, waste, and harmful bacteria, keeping the soil clean and fertile. They dig burrows, allowing rainwater to collect underground, and their movement helps aerate the soil. In other words, they act as living, breathing, recycling machines of nature. Inspired by a successful experiment in China's Gobi Desert, where foxes and wolves were reintroduced to combat desertification, Traoré decided to replicate the idea in Burkina Faso, but on a far larger scale. China's project had proven that reintroducing wildlife could reduce sandstorms, lower temperatures, and bring back grasslands. If it worked there, why not in Africa? Soon after, the government launched an ambitious program to breed and release millions of foxes into Burkina Faso's arid regions. Special breeding centers were built in various desert zones, designed to mimic natural habitats. Thousands of foxes were raised in these centers with proper food, water, and shelter. Artificial burrows and small water ponds were created to help them adapt easily once released. But this was not just an animal release program, it was a complete ecological revival strategy. Alongside the foxes, the government started a massive tree planting campaign. For every 100 foxes released, 500 trees would be planted to provide shade and natural habitats. Traoré called this movement the Soldiers of Nature. Each fox released into the desert carried a small GPS microchip to track its movements. When news of this project spread globally, many Western analysts dismissed it as unrealistic. Some called it a political stunt, others mocked it as folklore science. But a year later, satellite images told a different story. Areas once buried under shifting sands now showed faint green patches. Soil moisture levels were rising, and the ecosystem was clearly healing. The United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP, praised Burkina Faso's initiative, calling it one of the world's best examples of nature-based restoration. Environmental experts now believe that if the project continues at this pace, Burkina Faso's deserts could transform into thriving grasslands and forests within the next 10 years. But Traoré didn't stop there. Realizing that environmental recovery could also boost the economy, he launched a new ecotourism program. Ecotourism zones were created near the fox habitats, allowing visitors to witness the transformation firsthand. These zones attract nature lovers, researchers, and travelers from around the world, creating new jobs and sources of income for local communities. To further strengthen the initiative, the government introduced a Fox Bank project to fund long-term wildlife research and protection. A new force, the Rangers, was also established, made up of young volunteers, farmers, and wildlife experts, whose mission is to guard the foxes, protect their environment, and prevent illegal hunting. Traoré's vision is unlike any other modern leaders. He believes that true power doesn't come from military strength or wealth but from peace with nature. In his own words, "We can kill enemies with guns, but only nature can save our children." His philosophy has begun to inspire neighboring African nations to rethink how they approach climate change and environmental degradation. What started as one man's bold experiment is now becoming a continental movement, a symbol of Africa's resilience and innovation. Today, Burkina Faso stands as a beacon of hope for a planet in crisis. It shows that even the smallest creatures, when given a chance, can change the course of nature, and perhaps even the fate of humanity. This is not just a story about foxes. It's a story about vision, courage, and the unbreakable bond between humans and the earth that sustains them. In a world losing faith in political promises and technological miracles, Ibrahim Traoré's desert revolution reminds us that sometimes, the answers lie not in laboratories or weapons, but in the quiet footsteps of a fox beneath the stars. Fox face.